Hi, and welcome to the MyWifeQuitHerJob.com YouTube channel. Now today we're going to talk about how to set up SSL and process credit cards on your online store with no technical experience required whatsoever. And in case you're joining us midway through, this tutorial is actually part 2 of how to set up and create your own online store and own your own website without any technical experience whatsoever. And what I'm trying to do with these series of videos is I'm trying to teach you how to create and host your own online e-commerce store from scratch without needing to know anything about computers and without having to rely on services such as eBay, Etsy, or Amazon. And the goal here, once again, is to be self-sufficient. You will own your own website and you will have a feature-rich shopping cart with which to sell your goods without paying a lot of money and without getting charged an arm and a leg. Okay, so once again, this is part 2. Part 1, I talked about how to actually set up the shopping cart. But as you know, there's other pieces of the puzzle. So what are we covering today? The first thing that's very important when you're conducting transactions online is that all website transactions need to be absolutely secure. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set up SSL, which stands for Secure Sockets Layer. Now the terminology isn't that important, but in a nutshell, what it's doing is it's encrypting the transmissions from the client computer to your server. Okay? And the second thing I'm going to show you today is how to actually process credit cards online. And once again, the whole point of this tutorial is it's not meant to be very technical, and so in fact no technical experience is necessary. I'm going to show you how to set all this stuff up even if you're not a computer expert. So before we begin, I thought I'd just give you a very brief background of what SSL is. Okay, so whenever a customer sends their information to your server, it needs to be encrypted so no one can eavesdrop on the information. So one big example of why this is important is because you're going to be sending credit card information from the client computer to your server, and that obviously needs to be secure. And installing SSL on your website accomplishes this. It makes it so that all communications between the client and the server are absolutely secure just during transit. And I'm going to show you how to install this on your server, and just to give you a heads up, it's not actually that complicated. Okay, so basically I'm going to start where I left off in the last tutorial. In the last tutorial I actually set up a store and a URL called fasteasyonlinestore.com, and I used Bluehost. So if you haven't watched the first video, I recommend you go ahead and watch that one right now first, because we're going to be using some of the features built into the Bluehost control panel in order to conduct the rest of the tutorial. Okay, so the first thing I did is I'm here on the control panel for my fasteasyonlinestore.com, and in case you guys aren't familiar with the control panel, the way you get to it is you type in your URL, and in this case it's fasteasyonlinestore.com, and then you type in colon and then 2083. So I'm just going to highlight this real quick for you, and you hit enter. And at this point you're going to be asked to log in, and you're going to want to use the username and password that you signed up with. Okay, so here we are on the Bluehost control panel for my online store, and the first thing that's required in order to install SSL is that you need a dedicated IP address. Okay, so there's this tab here. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And getting a dedicated IP address costs only $2.50 a month. And it's absolutely required in order to make transmissions secure. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase this. Let's see, I'm going to use credit card. Okay, so at this point I've purchased my dedicated IP address, and I'm ready to conduct the rest of the tutorial. Okay, so once I've purchased my dedicated IP, I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to look under the security column, And I'm going to click on this tab called SSL TLS Manager. Okay, so now the first step of installing your SSL certificate is you need to generate a private key. Okay, so I'm going to click on this. Okay, so on this page, the first step is to generate your private key. Okay, so you're just going to need to scroll on down, and you just need to type in a domain, and you want to pick the largest key size, and you want to click Generate. Okay, so these letters and numbers are just your private key. It's not really important what they are at this point, but just know that these letters and numbers are a part of what makes your website secure. So once this is done, I'm going to go ahead and return to the SSL Manager. And the next step is to actually generate your certificate signing request. Okay, and all this information that you enter here is going to be important when it comes time to actually purchase your actual SSL certificate. Okay, so basically what you want to do here is you want to just enter in the information about your business and your website. Okay, so I'm just going to fill this out real quick. And under this passphrase column, I'm just going to generate a passkey. Usually you're not going to really need this passcode at all, but just make it something that's non-obvious. So I'm just gonna make it. I'm gonna go against what I told you, but just for the sake of this demo, I'm gonna just make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And here's the certificate request. Okay. Now I'm going to actually need this information for when I actually purchase my SSL certificate. So I'm just going to leave this open here because I'm going to need this information. And the next step now is to actually purchase the SSL certificate. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that if you're on Bluehost, they actually offer the option that you can purchase the SSL certificate through them directly. But as you can see here, Bluehost is always going to charge you a lot more money. So your options here are $45 a year, $199 a year, or $299 a year at the time of this video. But what I do is I always just buy them from GoDaddy, just because they're a lot cheaper. So, so if you go under my blog, which is at mywifequitherjob.com, click on this GoDaddy moniker here, and it'll let you actually buy it. An SSL certificate for $12.99 a year, which is only about $1 a month, so it's a great deal. And when it comes to SSL certificates, it doesn't really matter what brand that you get, because most browsers are going to recognize the SSL certificate and recognize that your site is secure no matter what brand that you buy. So it just pays to get the cheapest one. Okay, so once you get on here, I'm just going to log in real quick using my account. Once you get here, you want to go under SSL and Security and SSL Certificates. And you're just going to want to purchase the standard SSL. Okay, so single domain. Just going to get it for 12 months. I'm going to add it to cart. Okay, so as you can see here, it's just 13 bucks. I'm going to go to checkout. And once again, I'm just going to go ahead and pay for this with my credit card. Okay, so I just went ahead and paid for this. Okay, so now the next step is to actually install the certificate. Okay, so I'm going to click on My Account, and I'm going to click on SSL Certificates. And as you can see here, once I made the purchase, you're going to see the what you've bought right now, which is Standard Turbo SSL, 1 year annual. And now I'm going to click on this Setup button. Okay. Okay, so now that the SSL certificate has been added, they're now going to ask me a bunch of questions on how to actually set it up. Okay, so once you've waited a little bit, you'll see this new certificate moniker here under SSL certificates, and you're going to want to click on Launch. Okay, so finally it has shown up, and under Credits. Okay, so you're going to want to hit on Credits, and a lot of times it takes like 5 or 10 minutes for this to show up. And just now I've cut away the video where I was just waiting around, but it took about 5 minutes for this to show up. And you want to click on Request Certificate, and it says here it's going to ask you to enter in your certificate signing request below. Now, if you remember, we generated that already over here on our bluehost control panel. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut and paste that over. Okay. And this certificate issuing organization doesn't really matter what you choose. I tend to choose Starfield. Doesn't really matter again. And you're just going to want to click on the Next button. And as you can see here, it's securing the domain fasteasyonlinestore.com. And that's it. I'm done. Certificate will be issued shortly. Okay. So once again, you got to wait a little bit. Okay, so as you're waiting for the certificate to be issued, sometimes what happens is they'll send something to your email address just for additional verification. Okay, so at this point what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly go into my email account right now, and just to make sure that there's no email from GoDaddy. And sure enough, there's an email from GoDaddy asking me to actually click on a certain link. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the link. And it's asking me whether I want to approve the access, and I just did. And at this point, it should be ready to issue my certificate. So, yep. Let's see if it actually finished. Yep, and sure enough, my certificate is ready to go. And what I want to do at this point is I want to download the certificate to my computer. And I want to choose cPanel. Okay, and I'm going to click on Download. And now I have a copy of my certificate on my computer. And what I want to do at this point is I want to take this zip file. I want to file a support ticket to Bluehost, send them this information, and ask them to install the SSL certificate. Okay, and once that's all done, your domain will now be able to be accessed absolutely secure. Okay, and so that's all there is to it. I know that there's a lot of steps in this process, but as you can see here, you don't really need to know anything about the computer. All you have to do is know where to click and how to go through the entire process. Okay, so just in the interests of being complete here, I am just going to fire off a support request to Bluehost. Okay, so I'm going to open a ticket. And I'm going to click on Dedicated IP SSL. My full name is Steve Chu. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attach the downloaded file which I just got, which contains the SSL certificate. Okay, and I'm going to just say, please install this SSL certificate on my server. The domain name is fasteasyonlinestore.com. Okay, and that's all there is to it. And within probably a day or so, they'll go ahead and install that certificate, and you'll be ready to go. Okay, so at this point in time, it's been about 16 hours or so, and I just received an email from Bluehost support telling me that the SSL certificate was installed successfully and tested across multiple browsers without any errors. And basically what they're telling me is that everything that I just did was installed correctly. So once you get that message, it's time to go back to your store and to the admin panel. And so I'm going to go to fasteasy-online-store.com/admin, and I'm going to log in. Okay, and then I'm going to go under System, Settings, and then Edit. And under Server, there's this tab that says Use SSL, and I'm going to go ahead and click Yes, because now I have my SSL certificate installed successfully. And then I'm going to type Save. Okay, so at this point, everything about my store now is set up for secure transactions. And just to give you an example, I'm going to go to my store now. So here's my online store, which is located at fasteasy-online-store.com. I'm just going to go ahead and insert a few items to the shopping cart and check out. And now I'm going to click on the checkout button. And what you'll notice here in the upper left corner now is this green padlock, which indicates that all transactions are secure. So this padlock means that everything has been installed successfully, and we're now ready to install the credit card processing portion of the shopping cart. Okay, so at this point in time, what I would do is I would just go ahead and get the store set up, find your vendors, or just set up the store with how you would like and what you want to sell. In general, setting up the credit card processing is usually the last step that I take, because at that point you need to know a lot of the information about your store. So for example, you should have registered for a federal tax ID, you probably should have gotten a DBA, and you probably should have a business bank account. Okay, but once you have all these things, you're pretty much ready to start the credit card processing step, which is actually the last step in the whole process, because at this point we have the shopping cart, we have the security, and the last piece of the puzzle is how to accept payment. Okay, so just to reiterate what I just said, no matter what type of store you run, you need to be able to accept payment. And now I'm just going to go over a brief tutorial on how to actually set up your shopping cart to accept credit cards. And this is probably the easiest step of all. It doesn't take any technical knowledge at all. And in fact, all of this stuff is already built into the shopping cart that I've recommended, which is called OpenCart. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through the process now. Okay, so once again, we're going to start on my blog, which is at mywifequitherjob.com, and I want you to click on this. Now, what is this? This is Merchant Plus, and this is a credit card processor that I've used for a very long time. They are very reliable and they are very inexpensive. Okay, and also, if you use the coupon code MYWIFEQUIT, you will get a further 20% off of credit card processing if you go with this service, and it's a great deal. I recommend you do your own research, but this is the service that I've used in the past, and I found it to be very good. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to click on Online Lowest Rates, click on Get Started. Okay, and they're just going to ask you for some information, and I'm just going to walk you through this form process. Okay. Now here they're asking you for your DBA, and remember what I mentioned before, you should have this information handy. This is really just going to be the name of your store as it is online. Okay. Since I'm not really filling out this form for real, I'm just inserting dummy values for now. Okay, and this is where you would enter in the coupon code, and in this case it would be MyWifeQuit to get 20% off. Okay, so the legal business name is the name that you actually have filed on at the state level. Okay, and then here you're going to want to enter in your URL, so it's just yourstore.com, and here's where you're going to want to enter in the physical location of your business. Now, no PO boxes are allowed. However, you can enter in another address, such as an address that you might get from the UPS stores. So I highly recommend that you go ahead and register another address with a service such as the UPS store. But I'm just going to go ahead and populate this. Okay, so under business type, you're going to want to you're going to want to specify what type of business you're running. Now, if you don't have any sort of corporate structure set up, you just want to choose sole proprietor. But otherwise, you're going to obviously want to use the type of your business, whether it's an LLC or a corporation. And I highly advise that you get a federal tax ID number instead of using your own social security number. But it's really up to you here. So, okay, and then I'm going to, here you want to enter in a brief description of the type of goods and services that you offer. So I'm just going to pretend I'm selling gumball machines. Refund policy, just specify what your refund policy is going to be. Number of days until the product or service is delivered, just say 7 days or whatever. This is all going to depend on the nature of your business. I'm just going to fill out the questionnaire. And here you're going to be asked to provide a business reference. Now, in general, they say that family members and employees are not accepted as references, but chances are you'll have a supplier at this point with which you get your goods from to sell online. So you're just going to want to enter in a name of a person that you work with. And here's actually going to be where you enter in your bank account name. Now, what we're signing up for here is really just a gateway. This is a way to accept credit cards online, and then the funds are going to be deposited into this bank account that you specify here. Okay. So once again, I'm just going to give some bogus values here. So it's going to ask you some history. Have you ever accepted credit cards before? Perfectly acceptable to say no. Here's your requested monthly processing limit. And in general, I would just advise don't ask for too much more than you actually think you're going to process. This number is not set in stone. It's just they're going to be checking your credit. And this is just a guideline for them. It doesn't mean that you can only process this amount every month. So I'm just going to put $10,000 here. Average order size. All this stuff, again, is going to depend on the stuff that you're trying to sell. Now, the question here is whether you would like to accept American Express. Now, let me just tell you briefly why they actually even ask this question. American Express charges much higher fees than the other credit cards, Visa or MasterCard. Now, you've probably noticed this in the stores that you shop at. A lot of them accept Visa and MasterCard, but not American Express, simply because it's much more expensive. So, again, it's up to you whether you want to accept it or not. In general, it's probably not a big deal if you do not accept it. So I'm just going to say no. And here what you want is you want to make sure that you select the authorize.net gateway, because this is the gateway that's actually supported by the shopping cart. Okay. Sorry, I screwed up on a couple of these fields. Once you're ready, continue. And then finally, it's going to ask you for your name, your address, the percent ownership of the company, and your driver's license number, your social security number, all this stuff, because they're basically going to be doing a background check on you. And then once you've actually submitted this application, within 24 or 48 hours, someone's going to contact you, and if it's all good and you've been approved to process credit cards, they are now going to issue you a username and a transaction key. Okay? So once you have those two pieces of information, it's time to go back to your website. Okay? And what you want to do is you want to go to your website. In this case, it's fasteasyonlinestore.com, and you want to go to the admin panel. So it's /admin, and you want to log in. Okay, so you're going to want to log in onto the admin panel for your online store. And now you're going to want to finish installing the payment processor. So you're going to want to go under Extensions, Payments. And what we just installed was the authorize.net gateway. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit here. First you need to click on Install and then Edit. Okay, and these three fields here, which is your login ID, your transaction key, and your MD5 hash, will actually be provided by your credit card processor. In this case, it was Merchant Plus. So you're going to want to enter in your login ID, and again, this is all going to depend on what's given to you by Merchant Plus. And let me just tell you a couple of these things, what a couple of these fields mean. The transaction method, you're always going to want to, this is really up to you. Authorization means that once a customer enters in their credit card information, you're authorized to actually grab the money, but you don't actually grab the money yet. And what this capture means is you immediately capture their funds directly into your bank account. And the reason why these two options are offered to you is because the way an online store is supposed to work is you're supposed to first authorize the funds. And then once you've actually shipped the order out, you're supposed to actually then capture the funds into your account. So that's why OpenCart gives you this option. Okay, I'm just going to set it for capture for now. Under this order status, this is on the administration screen what you want the order to be once an order has actually completed. So I'm just going to set it to complete here. And I'm going to want to enable this. And I'm missing the MD5 hash here, but your vendor will actually give this to you as well. So once you're done entering in all the information that Merchant Plus has provided for you, after you've hit save, that's all there is left to do. And now what you want to do is, after you've installed your credit card processing, you want to actually go onto your site and go ahead and do a test transaction. So once again, I'm just going to insert something into my cart, and I'm going to go to checkout. And I'm just going to go through a mock checkout here for you. So I'm just going to enter in some bogus information. Okay, and you notice here now that credit card / debit card parentheses authorize.net is now a payment option. And if I click continue now, you'll notice now that there's fields here that will ask a customer for their credit card details. And now that's pretty much all there is to it. You're now ready to process credit cards. Okay, so that pretty much sums it up. I've just showed you how to install an SSL certificate and how to accept credit cards on your online store. Now that concludes part 2 of the video. Stay tuned, because in the next portion, part 3, I'm going to show you how to get a great looking website without hiring a designer and without knowing anything about website design. Now, in the meantime, I also wanted to take some time to introduce you to my full-blown course on how to create a profitable online store. Now, if you're interested on learning every single aspect of how to create a profitable online store, go to www.profitableonlinestore.com. As you can imagine, there's a lot more to it when it comes to opening an online store, and my course covers every single aspect of how to run a successful online store on your own. Okay, so stay tuned for part 3, and I'll talk to you soon.